couple of minutes, and then Mike and I are going to do a little role play, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're doing.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me to spend a few minutes with you. In case you missed my name is David Linsky. I guess you took that thing down with me. And I'm very proud to have that carrying force there. This is really important to me because the work that each of you folks do to help people who need a helping hand in some way is just so valuable. Just so valuable. It's work, the work that you do is not work that a lot of people really want to do. I mean, that's the reality. And you should be paid a whole lot more for what you do. I mean, you need and I truly mean that, because you're helping make the lives better of the people that you deal with in direct care every single day. And it's people who, like I said, need a little hand. It might be someone who's elderly. It might be someone who has a physical or mental challenge. It might be a child. It might be a combination of all of them. But you're not just helping that individual person. You're helping their families as well. And they appreciate it. I know they do. They really do. I have a son who has had some challenges in his life, I'll say, and he's doing great. He's a freshman in college now. But for a long period of time, he was in a whole host of special needs schools, private special needs schools. And so one thing that really struck me during the time that he was in there was the staff turn, in that he would, get to know someone who worked in the school, either on the residential side or on the academic side, and then a few months later, that person would be gone. And, it was very difficult on him and very difficult for the other kids in the school. And I realized that the people loved the work that they were doing, but they just couldn't afford to do it anymore. Or maybe they were doing that job at the school, but they were also working a night shift at 7-Eleven or 95 as well. Because I know that stuff was going on, or they were bartending or waitressing or something like that. And I'm sure that there's people in this room who were doing the same thing, just to try to pay your own bills and your own student loans and to pay the co-pays on your health insurance and all that kind of stuff. So I really do appreciate the work that each and every one of you do on a daily basis. I know it is far from glamorous work, but it is so important. So initially, I just want to say thank you for that. So let me try to put this a little bit in context, sort of how we legislators, and I think that to a person in the legislature, we want to help you. But I want you to know that there are pressures on us from a whole variety of different places. Let me try to explain it. We do a state budget every year. The whole state budget runs $32, $33, $34 billion. And in that state budget, there's all these different pies, I would say. Probably the biggest pie that we have to deal with is the state portion of Medicaid, health insurance for people who are funded through the state and federal programs of Medicaid, the state portion of it. And then there's another big chunk in the state budget that pays for what we call local aid, direct aid to cities and towns and public schools. And then there's the rest of the pie. And when you add up the rest of the pie, it is actually less than half the budget. And in that budget, we have to pay for all of human services. We have to pay for state colleges and universities. We have to pay for the state police. We have to pay for every single state agency that's out there. We have to pay for the prisons, which is a huge cost, I have to say, as well as everything. Absolutely everything else. And when it comes to the human services budget, there are a lot of pressures on us, and they're all worthy programs. We've got DMH programs and ES programs and all types of other things. And I think every legislator would want to say yes to absolutely every request that comes in there, but we can't. So what we have to do is we have to come up with a list of priorities. And let me tell you sort of what's going on right now, because the legislators literally now are coming up with their own individual sets of priorities. Here's what happens. Each one of us writes a letter. If we're in the House, we write it to the House Ways and Means Chair, Brian Dempsey, and in the Senate they have a similar thing, where we list all of our priorities for the coming year. And then we have a meeting with him where we spell out why we want X, Y, and Z. And he's got this whole great big chart in his office. How many people put human services salary reserve? How many people put state colleges? How many people put state prisons? How many people put the state police? And he kind of keeps track about what the membership wants. And based on that, he develops the House version of the budget. Now, what has happened so far is the governor has filed his recommendation, and we treat that as his recommendation. But we do our own, and the Senate does their own. Now, we've mentioned the salary reserve. Who here in this room knows what Governor Patrick, who I love dearly and who has a good heart, but who in this room knows what the dollar amount in millions of dollars it was that the governor recommended for the salary reserve? Does anybody here know?
Zero.
Exactly. Well, you've already learned. So guess how much money we in the House are going to have to find elsewhere in the budget to fund the salary reserve. Because unlike the federal government, we have to pass a balanced budget. We don't have this printing press in the basement like the feds do, where we can just keep on making more of it. It doesn't work that way. So, you know, I have to go in there and I have to figure out when I ask Brian Dempsey, you know, for the ask that is 16.8, is that the right number this year? 16.8 million for the salary reserve. Then the next question is, okay, Dave, where are we going to find that? What are we going to cut? Because that's the reality. That's how it has to work. Or, of course, then there's the other question is, all right, Dave, what's the tax you're going to raise to raise the extra 16.8 million? Okay, which is a tough one. So I just want you to kind of know what the procedure is. So we all have this meeting. We have these meetings, and then we have a bunch of big caucuses where we talk about, where we kind of debate behind closed doors, because that's what we do. And then we come up with a House Ways and Means Committee budget, and that may or may not have the salary reserve in there. If it doesn't have the salary reserve in it, then I have to file a budget amendment and get as many co-sponsors for that budget amendment as I can. Magic number being 81, because once you get 81, that means what you're going to want. And then if we pass it into law, the Senate has to do the same thing. They have to find the money, they have to pass it, we have to reconcile it in a conference committee report, and then we have to put it on the governor's desk. Well, we did all that last year. We put it on the governor's desk, and guess what the governor did? He vetoed it. Okay? So that meant that I had to start all over again. And I had to go to the speaker and get a list of names of my colleagues who were willing to do what's known as a veto override, and 2/3 of the House to do it. Karen Spilka did the same thing on the Senate side, and we got it done, and we passed it into law despite the governor's veto. Well, then we had this other little problem where the state didn't have quite enough money to pay for everything that was in the budget, and the governor is authorized to make what's known as a 9C cut, which means to eliminate some things to make the budget balance. Looked like salary reserve was going to be one of those items. So then I had to organize it again and get all these letters and all these signatures. God bless my staff, because they're the ones who were making the phone calls and getting the signatures. And then we were able to protect it. But it's a battle that we've been fighting for a number of years. say. Because not everybody, I think, sort of prioritizes the way that I do and appreciates the way that I do the work that each and every one of you do, because I truly, truly mean it. I cherish that little stuff there, and it's in my office right now in the yellow t-shirt, and it's just a reminder of the important work that everybody does. And call me a bleeding heart, and I'm a bleeding heart, but I really believe in this stuff. I really, really do. There's people probably heard me say this before, but there's a bunch of framed stuff in my office on the walls, but behind my desk is sort of my overall guiding philosophy of how I look at things, and it's a quote from Hubert Humphrey. Hubert Humphrey didn't agree with him on everything, but I agreed with him on this one. And that it's a framed quote from him that says, "The true test of a civilized society is how that society treats those who are in the dawn of life as children, those who are in the twilight of its life, its elderly, and those who are in the shadows of life, its handicapped and its sick and its disabled." And I truly believe that. So that when I go vote on something in the House or when I'm working on an issue, I'm really trying to take that into consideration about how does it fit in with our vote for. So anyways, I thank you for the opportunity to meet with you this afternoon. It's always good to be in Metro West, even if it's raining. But this meeting's a hell of a lot better. But it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you very much.